people that have watched our show with any regularity at all know what our message is. We're all insane.
That's right.
We are all insane. The human race, without exception. I mean, a guru or a holy man, assuming one of those people exists, would be the first to agree. Yeah, we're nuts. I'm not it. What do you think? I'm Godhead or something? Notice the physical body. Notice the need for food, or maybe even not food. Maybe even got beyond that. But the fool on the hill is keeping perfectly still. Probably has his mouth shut. He's not saying a word. And because he sees it. He sees the world as crazy. It's a mad, 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 mad world. And I was thinking about that. Like, what does that mean? What would it mean if we all, out there in TV land, all across the world, we all realize that right now, our definition of insanity is confusing what we think is reality with actual reality, with truth. And that's why we're crazy. The more you think you know, the less you know, the crazier you are. Humility is the golden key.
Okay, so
if we all got that, what would that look like?
Well, you just said the fool on the hill, which you were implying was somebody that did really recognize that they were insane, would keep their mouth shut, which I think feeds to a lot of people's fears that, you know, what we're talking about up here is that, you know, if you love, you know, the person who asked about love, or that you do nothing, that you keep your mouth shut and just sit up on the hillside, watch the world go round in its madness and self-destructiveness, and don't participate. And that's kind of what it made it sound to me like you were insinuating, that you just...
Well, you know how I think one of the, if not the last verse, how it resolves is,
I mean, the fool on the hill song?
He knows that they're the fools. Doesn't mean he isn't a fool, but he knows he's a fool,
Right.
and he knows they're a fool, because as soon as you really get you're a fool, you can see so's everybody else. The classic crazy line is, you know, the mad scientist and the
Right.
voluptuous, buxomy woman strapped to the table.
Yeah, right.
Says, you're mad. And he says, don't ever call me that. You know, you're crazy. Don't ever say that.
Right.
It's not, I'm saying that everybody else is crazy. That is not the message of this show.
Right. Right. So the fool is the wise man because he recognizes his foolness.
Yeah.
Right.
The oracle said Socrates was the wisest man in Athens. Pissed everybody off, of course. And the reason, and Socrates said, but why me? Because I know nothing. And it was basically, the answer is, Socrates was the only person in Athens in touch with the truth, that he knew nothing. He knew nothing.
Well, so, yeah, we talked about this in the show about humility, I think. I mean, that's what it's about, is recognizing, when you recognize your insanity, you are humble about your knowledge. You question your assumptions and your reality, and never take it for granted that you're right and the other person's wrong. And if you want to see an example of that, watch last week's show.
The Peace on Earth episode.
Where Arthur and I had a fight on camera, which was, interesting. And
Sort of the way it should be. I like to be transparent here as much as possible. I mean, the only one that's ever fooled me is the one that stares back in the mirror.
well, so do we have anything new to report on that subject, is what I'm
Well,
saying. I mean, did we
before we-
cover it in the humility show?
Well, I don't know. Well, my question is, I don't know. My question is, what would it look like if you could wave a magic wand and right now suddenly, ding, everybody in the world realized that they were crazy? Now, I don't mean strapped and so deranged, your ability to interact with objective reality. Water's wet, rocks are hard. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what we think about it. It's like, in the last show, I was raving on it, expressing contempt for people who haven't been obsessed with me about how things work. You know, when I went to a doctor when I was a little kid, I remember, I want to know exactly what you're going to do. I want to know how much it's going to hurt. I want to know what's going on. I am not a trusting soul, and I have an inquiring mind. And I've had a really screwy life, which has led me to explore what in the hell is going on here. And I've been really fortuitous to have stumbled into some, I believe, amazing answers, thanks to chemical substances and even Christianity, lo and behold. Eastern religion, certainly, also. But just because that is my propensity to seek and actually get some stuff, whether I live it or not is a whole different matter, but actually discover a lot, how that's objective fact. But the subjective trouble I get into, which gives you a big fat swollen head and make you kid yourself that you're better than anybody else, better than anyone who never asked a question in their life. That's the subjective mind. And that is what is making us craziest. Give me liberty or give me death is the statement of a madman. There's nothing noble about it. I'll tell you something. When you're dead, as far as I can tell, you smell and rot. And it's better to be buried quick. There's no more hope then. As long as you're breathing in and out, there's hope. So our nuclear policy, mutually assured destruction. you know, MAD, mad. I mean, that's the product of the subjective mind. It's better to risk exterminating the human race in a doomsday cloud. It's better to do that than to change or to entertain the possibility of change. That's madness, and that's what's about to get us killed individually and collectively. So,
okay, but
my
I think you were
question is,
talking...
what happens
Yeah.
if we all realized?
I don't know what.
Because, well, I had to throw that in because people say, I got, my crazy cousin who's been in, the mental home since he was 14 years old and he's still there. I'm not like that. No. What you can do, the difference between you and your nutty cousin, you have the ability to manage your insanity. It's just like the old kid saying, but everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is acting like us, more or less, enough to not be put away. We get up in the morning to the alarm clock and we take our lunch break and we don't cheat too much on our taxes and all that stuff, like that great line from Sheriff Jeff, the only difference between the people in the jailhouse and the ones on the outside are the ones on the inside have been caught. And it's really that. We live in a...
Okay, so I feel
right.
like you keep doing the preamble and
I know,
you never
that's
quite
me.
get to the answer, and
It's hard,
and maybe
part of
because
the show. Read our book; it's coming soon.
yeah, I know, because you keep thinking you have to back up and explain
True.
for people that haven't watched our show before. And basically what we're saying is that there's this consensual reality out there that in every culture builds, and as long as you you agree. And you form your own individual reality, and that matches up with that consensual reality, then you're accepted as normal and sane, and you can walk around. But if your individual reality, for whatever reason, doesn't fit that reality, then you're branded as abnormal and insane, and you're put away. Some people, definitely have physiological flaws that mean they can't. But then there are other people who just don't want to be part of that society. But anyway, the point is that just because we participate in our culture's consensual reality doesn't mean we're sane. It just means we are following along with the insanity of our entire culture. And so the truth is that everyone's insane, and it's just a matter of varying degrees of insanity. But we are all insane. So what would happen
look
if...
in the mirror, and if you really think you really know what you're looking at in the mirror, you're insane.
Okay, so do you feel like we can get now to the topic
Let's
that you
go
want to?
for it. Let's see where this leads.
All right. If everyone maybe not everyone on Earth, but let's say if a large population acknowledged that they were insane.
How about the United States?
All right, or
to me, that's really not much of a stretch.
Because we're so crazy
Dancing
here?
with stars. Okay. Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!
All right. So what would that mean? What would it mean that we would? First of all, to say that we recognize that we're insane. Let's just maybe start from there. What does it mean to recognize that you're insane on a daily basis? Like, in an actual, not just an intellectual thought, oh, I'm insane, but how does that translate into daily behavior?
Are you asking me that?
Yes. Well, this is your idea.
Well, the first thing that comes up, there are a lot of advantages to being crazy. Mm-hmm. And one of the great advantages of being crazy is you don't get to blame yourself or anything or anybody else for anything ever again. Doesn't mean you let serial killers run around loose, but it also means you don't punish crazy people. They used to beat people in mental hospitals. They used to keep them in dungeons and hose them down every week or something, just in their own muck. But then we got more enlightened, and we realized those people can't help the way they behave. Until you get to Ronnie Reagan, the American joke saying to open the mental institutions because he didn't think big government should be paying for it. And turned them loose on the streets, which is where a lot of your homeless people come from, ning-nongs, crazy ning-nongs. See, I'm blaming you.
Right.
You know why? Because I'm crazy. When you blame somebody, you're crazy. You get mad at somebody in traffic. Where'd you like the truck? You're crazy. When you say, nuke 'em, you're crazy.
see,
Somebody I know used to
yeah.
say, devein them, like child pedophiles, child molesters, pull their veins out one at a time with needle nose plumb. They're crazy. They can't help it. Doesn't mean you let them loose. Doesn't mean you let them prey on children. But
wait
you
a
have
second.
compassion for yourself and others. That is a major benefit.
But wait a minute, you're making it like it's a benefit. What? We just read this New York Times review of the new Coen Brothers movie, True Grit. And I believe the first sentence in the review said something like, in the spirit of the great American tradition of retribution. I mean, and then they quoted a great
religion
of retribution. They quoted a great D.H. Lawrence line about the true American character is, violent and revenge oriented. I can't remember the exact quote. So
a killer.
We love revenge. That's, Hollywood would crumble without the revenge film. So we love blaming people. So where do you come off saying that we would actually be a benefit of not blaming people? Because it's like feeds a whole part of our character. Explain this to me.
Do I detect the aroma of devil's advocate in the room?
Well, yes.
that ignorant mindset, gorilla takes one gorilla's coconut, and conks the gorilla on the head. And the injured gorilla grabs another coconut and conks that gorilla back, and they just stand there until one just passes out from blows.
An eye for an eye means a sightless world.
A tooth for a tooth.
No, and Gandhi says an eye for an eye means a sightless world.
Eventually, yes, they're called hydrogen bombs.
Right.
And who knows what's coming next, what the future may bring. The military-industrial complex must be working on some doozy death rays or mass sterilizers.
Well, actually, what you were mentioning that last show, and it occurred to me like it's kind of a disappointment in the military-industrial complex that they haven't developed anything beyond the thermonuclear. It's like 50s. I mean, we're in the 21st century.
Yeah.
We haven't come up with any new nuclear devices.
That's right.
I mean, bunker buster bombs. It's like,
yeah, I'm talking about mind scramblers.
we're talking about
scramble
real
your brains.
innovation, right?
Those things that they used to have. You put an egg on it, a little spike, and it scrambles the egg in the shell. Just to scramble your brains from long distance.
Right. Some real
call
true
somebody
innovation. Okay, enough satire.
Or the joke, remember the Monty Python's the joke
right.
that would kill if you read it, and they just dropped the
right.
joke.
You would laugh
the
so
enemy.
hard that you would die.
That's right.
Right, that's right.
I mean, let's get innovative.
Right.
Doomsday device, Mr. President.
Okay,
a series of computers could be set up, and when it was released, it would envelop the Earth in a doomsday shroud.